Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. We are going to finish bracelet making. This is the second bracelet making episode. So for this episode, what you are going to need is a pair of cutters, and these are two different kinds. We got our flush cutters. They're flush on, they make a cut flush on both sides. Or if you just have regular nippers, these guys work just fine as well. So one of those two, pair of square nose, they're just a in case kind of a deal, in case you need to flatten something or maybe muscle something into shape. And then your round nose for those lovely decorative elements we're going to be doing. So, and got that out of the way. Now, if you want, you also have an option here of using a bench block and a hammer. Bench block, hammer. And maybe even a file if you go with the bench block method. Now, what you end up doing with the bench block here, these are the ends of my bracelet. I have taped both halves together, as you can see here. Same weave on both sides, and I'm trying to make sure, and it's really hard to make it perfectly match up, but try my best to make both sides match up. And as you can see, these wires here have been flattened out with the hammer and bench block. You don't have to do this if you don't want to do it. You can just use the these ends here. But I thought I'd go ahead and show you ahead of time, especially since hammering on the bench block is very loud, very noisy. Before doing it on your piece, practice a little bit with a 16 gauge wire, which is what you should be using for your foundation wires here. And go ahead and give it some practice. I wish I could show you in a video, but it's really, really annoying and loud and awful. I'm trying to make a video on the hammering part of it. Maybe I'll figure out how to do it one day, but the big thing is trying to focus on one area. And as you can see, when you're practicing especially, you'll maybe try to keep from getting areas where you hammered more than others. Try to make sure you have a nice gradual hammering throughout the piece. And you don't have to just waylay and just hit and hit and hit as hard as you can. Start off softer when you're doing your hammering. And you'll see slight changes, slight variations, and as it goes, then change where your hammer is. You can't just haul off and hit this thing and it's going to turn into the shape you exactly want. If you do that, you're going to end up with this crease right here where the hammer edge stopped on you, and that happens a lot. And it's going to be so hard to get that edge out of there. So the best thing to do is just save yourself a whole bunch of heartache and a whole bunch of pain in the butt, and just go softer at it rather than just trying to get it all done in 2 or 3 hits. Now, the thing with the file, when you start hammering on this, sometimes it'll puddle out really nice and fan out really nice. Other times, maybe you don't want it to fan out, and sometimes when it fans out, it has an end like this. It'll have 2 sharp points with a rounded bit. That's where you're going to need your file for, to go in there and maybe round it up and kind of style and shape it the way you want. And sometimes, like what happened with this guy, I ended up having to file on the inside because my hammer hit awkwardly, and it ended up with a bulge in here. So went in there with this file and got him out of there, and now I'm much happier with it. So that is what these guys are for, and I will be showing you how to finish your bracelet with just these 2 guys and just regular. So as you can see, I did go ahead and move forward a little bit, mostly so that way I can show you where to go. You don't, in this video would be like so long. So what you're going to do with your 2 pieces, put them together and use masking tape to wrap them up. This is going to be pretty important, otherwise they're going to be slipping and sliding around on you and they're going to be getting all uneven. It's going to be the biggest pain you ever dealt with. And in order to combine these 2 halves into a bracelet, you're going to take what wire you have left And you're going to weave throughout all 6 pieces, and you're going to go back and forth. Now this is a great time to pause the video and play around with different ways of weaving, different styles of weaving. But whatever it is that you do, you're going to have to go all the way across, so that way this has integrity and strength and it's put together. What I did was I did kind of a basket weave type thing. It was my first attempt at doing this this type of a weave, and I really only succeeded up here, but the rest of it down here looks pretty good, so I'm not too worried about it. And you want to go up maybe about 4, maybe 5 times, going back and forth. So how I accomplished this weave was I ended on 2, and it's actually a lot better looking on this side once I figured it out. I ended on 2 weaves, or when we were going down from our 3 wire encompassing, I started the 2 weaves, and so over the 2, and then I go in 1, over 2. Oh, it's so much harder when you've done decorative elements. Oh, come here. Come here, come here, come here. All right, so you go around 2, go around 1, go around the 1 and then the 2, 1, 2, come back around, go around 2, this is 2 again. You want to make sure you get down nice and tight. Look, round 2, go around this one again, all the way around it, until you go around 1 and 2, this long one here, 1, 2, all the way around that one, and then you're going to go around 1 and 2, and all the way around that last one. Now that's one side done. Now it doesn't look like this one down here yet, but it will. So now we're going to come around, go around 2, 1 and 2, and then you got to go around this one twice. Well, not twice, but all the way around it. And then you go from here, since this was our last one, 1 and 2. And this guy's going to go all the way around, wrap it all the way around. And you got 1 and 2. Around there. And this got to go around this guy twice. And then 1 and 2. It's going to go around him all the way. And there you have it. That's the basket weave. At least that's what I'm calling it. I really don't know its name. I'm not a weaver. I'm a metalsmither. I do painting. I do jewelry smithing. I do drawing. I don't need other hobbies other than what I already got. So to me, this makes me think of a basket. You got the shorts, and then you got the long pieces on top, and then you got another short set that you can put on top of that and keep building it up. So that is that. And if you find as you're doing this, again, your wires are going to probably snap a lot while you're doing this. It's just going to take time and practice. It's okay if it happens. Again, just keep in mind that if you're going to add pieces, like what I did on the back side here, just, you know, go ahead and end him, fold him down, and then you just take your new wire, and let's say this piece, this is a new wire. You just take your new wire, lay it on top, not when this is all spread out. You're going to want this all nice and closed up. Lay it down on top, make sure you have enough of a tail to hold it down, so that way you got a hold of it, you don't want it slipping through everything, and then just go ahead and continue weaving, and then we can nip off everything. So, which is the step we are at. So, oh, my nippers are over here. So, you can, once you get all that done and you're ready to just do this part, all the ends, you're going to want to have at least one very long wire for the next part, adding some beads down through the middle of our piece here. And you see here I got a little bit of a a doohickey here. But I'm going to go ahead and unweave this. I just wanted to show you the weave that I used for the ends. And again, this is a great opportunity to play around with different weaves and just experimenting by yourself. Now, as for your wire being all crinkly, I've heard it put this way before, and I really liked how this person told me. Wire has a memory, and it always wants to go back in the shape that it previously was. So that's why you got all these little kinks and things. Well, not why, but I mean, all these little kinks are where the wires remembered how it was wrapped around before. And a lot of times, especially when you're doing really big wire projects that have way, way, way more guide wires and everything, sometimes you'll find yourself going around and wrapping up. See, there it just went. And that happens with thinner gauges a lot, and that's no big deal. I'll deal with that. You'll see people going around, and then they'll undo it and go around maybe the top, where it's easier to go around the bottom than it is the top, but then that wire already has that memory going. Well, when you're dealing with these smaller gauges, you're going to get a lot of snapping and breaking. Now see, because of that break, I made sure that this comes down round in there, and it's just long enough that it folds itself in there just beautifully. So no, I'm not going to worry about it. And it's something where if I'm rubbing my finger over it, or even I rub my shirt sleeve or whatever, it's not going to catch on it. And do it, you know, experiment with that. Rub something over your sleeve and see, okay, well, does that catch on it a lot or not? If it catches, maybe try to find another place to end it. But yeah. So once you've done all of that, you've continued on, and now you have all these little stray bits out. You just go through and nip them off, nip them nice and close again, so that way they're kind of hidden inside of your weave throughout places. And now we're going to work on this end. Doesn't matter which end you choose, but this is the end that I kind of played with the most. Now, I took my two shortest ones and I folded them forward to get them out of my way. These guys are going to end up being decorative. And my long pieces, I ended up folding them in these two directions, and that's just literally pull them over, pull it over. And then the last two pieces I had, you might end up needing your round nose for this part. Flip it over here. And also, we'll worry about it. Now, when these guys were nice, long, and straight, I'd forgotten about it, so that's why it's not exactly even, but there are all kinds of ways to hide that part of it, why it's kind of slightly off to the side, because this end ended up being longer than this, and it's like, ah, shoot, I forgot. Oh, well, I'll deal with it on the other side. Or even just pull it over a little bit. It may be uneven here, but now it's uneven up there. Whatever you decide to do to fix your own little imperfections. But again, if you just take the cutters, cut them even from the beginning, you won't have that problem. And once we get that done, you can just take these guys using the end of your round nose. Now, it's going to be pretty hard, and it's going to do some silly things with the ends of your round nose, so be careful. The 16 gauge is pretty strong. And you're going to just kind of loop it over and have these nice little round parts. And as for this part, I mean, you can use anything that's round. You can use a piece of dowel rod, whatever. I ended up using my looper to loop these around, and that's just, you know, taking them like this and then whoop over and doing the same with the other side, so that way to make sure you get it nice and even, nice and straight. And that's how I did that part. And then it's just taking a wire, wrapping it around, because these are two halves, right? So you're going to take a wire and just wrap it around, give it a nice coil, go through the middle here twice, go over the top twice, and then continue wrapping all the way down. So that's that part. Now on this side, I decided that the two inside ones, which I did my demonstration there for you, I'm going to bend those guys out of my way. Now these guys here, I think I'm going to use these for decorative elements, and these guys are going to end up being my next part. So if you just want to get that side all nice and ready, there we go. Okay, so I'm not going to make you miss out on the fun part. This is the fun part after you get your hoop here made. You can decide to hammer at this point to make these round. I'm going to go ahead and show you. I guess I can make these round. I'll do these later. I'll do this side later. But okay, let's go ahead and take a look at what we got going on here. Now, more for decorative than anything, I'm going to cross these two. Now this, this side, it's going to want to bend over much more pleasantly. Now this side is not wanting to bend over quite so pleasantly and leaving me a nice roundness. It's just kind of wanting to collapse over. And so I'm just going to bend it a little bit with my round nose so that way I get that nice, there. I think that looks a little bit better, a little more pleasant. And that's really just for a decorative element, you know, the kind of crisscross feel. And just gonna move it back upwards, move it back upwards. So I got that, still got that nice crisscross down there, which is gonna mimic your crisscross of what you end up doing down this way on this end. So nice little decorative crisscross. And when you're doing this, basically you're going to be putting a lot of strength into this, making sure that this end, this bottom part here, doesn't move, and only rotating your hand to make this the longer piece, the end piece, just fold up where you want it to fold up. So it's going to take a little bit of muscle. Alright, now you can do this next part a couple of ways. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and wire weave up this guy here. But I think I got quite a bit of wire weaving going on throughout. I think I'm going to just leave it beautiful blank metal. So if you want to, go ahead and pause the video here so that way you can go ahead and do your wire weaving or whatever it is that you decide you want to do with your bracelet. And we'll see you when you get done doing that. Okay, now that they've paused, let's keep going. So for this next part, I want to leave a nice good length. And if you want to, you could even start bending this now to your wrist a little bit. Now, I don't have a bracelet former. There are bracelets formers out there. I just don't have one yet. You really want your bracelet to do most of its bending, and it's going to take a little bit of work, but you're going to want mostly your end pieces to do a lot of the bending inwards here. And let's see here. Beep. You could even use your looper just a little bit if wanted. There we go. Now I'm going to worry about shaping it a little bit more later, but this is going to give me roughly an idea of how long this part is going to need to be. Because this part with our looper, we're going to put a nice bend in it. And we want to make sure that that bend will make it all the way through, because this is going to be the hook for our eyepiece. So if that was much shorter, it would be able to hook in. And this is a built-on hook piece. Now you could do this a different way. You could end up going with another hoop right here. Do the same thing over here. And then maybe add this hook on so that way if you need extra length. But here we are. Get this wire out of my way here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is start doing these decorative parts. And you can do these pretty much however you want. Now you're going to find that this part, it's not going to move the way that you want it to afterwards. So if you pounded this out straight, the part that you have hammered out, it's not going to move anymore. It's going to stay straight. Unless you heat it up over an open flame to re-soften it back up. Then it might, but then you're going to have to be dealing with it trying to roll around on you. So if you want it to be in a hook, then you're going to have to hammer it into that hook shape. But let's see. This is the fun part of it all. This is your own imagination that gets to come up with whatever this part's going to end up being in the end. Now, I don't try to make mine like perfectly match each other. I think that gets a little boring. I will have some elements kind of match, like how these guys end in at the end of all this. At least have some sort of goings on here. I'm pretty happy with that. Whoop, sorry. All right. I have my little spiral there. But it's kind of lopsided on this side. So I'm going to put my thumb here and my pliers there and try to force it a little more into place, which I might have to just do it this way. Made it a little better, but now the bottom's little. So a lot of moving. Don't be very careful when you're using your tools. You don't want to scratch your own piece up, especially your decorative parts, because I mean these areas are so very, very fine that it's going to be a pain in the butt to try to get those scuff marks off, if you can get them off at all, because that requires sandpaper and maybe even a file, but then the file is going to leave some pretty severe markings on it. So it might just end up being better to just cut the whole piece off. Now I am rotating this very loosely because I don't want nice tight spirals at this point. There we go. And there we are. Nice little decorative piece right there for all this for our clasp. And now we can turn around and do the other side. So I will be right back. As I said before, hammering is just so loud and obnoxious, especially when you're trying to record. So I will be right back. See you guys in a moment. All right, back, and yeah, I got a little crazy and I kept going. So I hammered these guys out, placed them. They are obviously not the same as over here, but I always think that that's okay. I like having things different, and plus, cute little heart. Now, what I did with the long pieces, I folded them around and came over. And before I do any more with those, should be time to take all that tape off. Be careful when if you use your nippers to do this, that you don't end up cutting your wire underneath. Have it. Now I got a few little stragglers that were apparently underneath my tape here. There's one. Okay. And so I'm going to cut him nice and close. I'm going to angle my pliers down in there. There we are. Okay. So now that I've done that, I'm going to start placing these guys. Now, as you can see, I've decided that for this side, I was going to secure these two down. They end up coming a lot off of my piece from the sides. And that's my wire again. They end up coming off of my piece quite a bit from the sides. And this is a pretty easy thing that can get caught on other people's clothing and stuff, and just wearing it at work, what have you. So I decided to go ahead and lash them down, and I pretty much, that's one of the nice things, especially since I weave way too tight. Yep. It's one of the nice things about this groove in the middle here is that I can go down through here, come up through some of the other gaps that I have in my piece, so that way I can lash those. Alright, now that just to end this, I am going to bring it around. I'm going to slide it through underneath here, kind of like a knot, not 100% a knot, but slide you. Sometimes it's just easier to get some pliers. Oh, fine. Come on now. I'm sure you can tell that this little wire doesn't have much work life left in him. There we go. Probably by the time I get done pulling him through, he's just gonna snap. Oh, maybe not. All right. So I wrapped that guy around. I might try to use him for just a wee bit more. Nice and tight. All right. I'm just going to leave him right there. Maybe there's something else I can use him with. And I went ahead and created this little piece out of one of my longer pieces. And I am going to straighten you just a little bit. Just start that over. Smoosh. 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 Make it nice and straight again. Okay, so I like how that's going, so I'm wanting to make him like this spiral over here. Fix that spiral just a tiny bit. Okay, so I'm going to make him like that spiral over there, and how I did that was I filed down one side nice and flat. Very nice steep angle, very pointy. If you want to see a video more on that, feel free to go and look at my beginning head pins, spiral head pins. That goes a lot more in depth. You know, these aren't head pins, it's the same spiral technique. Alright. Let's see here. Nice and pointy. Round nose. And there we are. And those are pretty far away for this wire to do anything with, so I'm just going to continue hiding him in the background. Oh, Sam. You ate. Yes, you did. Oh, Brody Bear. Nice little hiding spot, so I'll just cut him there. Tuck that in. Alright. Now what I ended up deciding to do on this side was making a hoop. I did a bit of a wrap, something different. And now I'm going to cut that guy off. Unwrap it just a tiny bit. Remember, wire has a memory. It wants to be the way it was before. And by doing that, that allows me to come in here and fold him back down where he was. And this pliers might just be too big. Yeah, too big. And I just folded him back down in there. And there he is, the end. All nice and neatly tucked away and hidden. Now for this end. So I've decided to go with it, what I've done here. So kind of straighten him out just a little bit. Okay. A little bit of filing here. Yep. And sometimes the wire just does not want to behave with you, and you just gotta muscle him in with your tools. A little bit. Come on. You two. Maybe I'll just unspiral that guy just a little bit. There we go. Lovely. All right. Stretch. There. Yeah. And now that I've made these sides similar but not the same, I'm probably going to end up taking some wire and going ahead and covering this guy. That's nice and snug. I mean, I personally am going to notice if something were to happen and that guy falls off. It'll be pretty noticeable because he's snug enough. I mean, he's not cutting off my circulation or anything, but snug enough that I would notice if he was missing. And you can always just keep working on the shaping part of it if you also do not have a bracelet former. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do, and I'll cut forward for you so that way you don't have to see me do it. I'm just going to take some wire and lash these guys down. More than likely going to lash them down to the inside wire here, lash them to each other, inside wire, and I might even do one down here for this one. And I'll do the same for this guy. He just might get one lashing right there. So I'll be back in a few. Yeah, I got a kink in there that... There we go. Alright, now that's wrapped around that. And threading through the top one more time. Okay, now I'm going to give that guy a little nip nice and close. There we go. And there you have it. All right, and a nice little piece to wear. Yeah. And like I said, this guy's nice and tight, especially on my wrist. You know, a lot of bracelets that are shaped like this, they tend to be that way, where they don't have an underpiece. But if you feel that you want to add a hook, it will be a pretty big hook. But if you want to add a hook to the back part of it, you can. I'll be doing a video on that eventually. But yeah, and we are all done. Lovely, lovely little piece here. So, thank you everybody for coming and watching my episode here, coming and hanging out with me. Please like and subscribe. Please put in the comment sections things that you would like to learn, things that perhaps you might be having a hard time understanding. Or you can just, you know, post what you have made yourself with this video. I'd love to see it. Also support us on Etsy. We do have an Etsy account, and Naughty Dog Studios, and we also have a Facebook page. You will be able to find it with Naughty Dog Jewelry. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks for coming and hanging out, guys. Bye.